Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Every Whiskey, episode number 2 on our podcast where we drink whiskey and talk to founders of companies that I've invested in. We talk about the startup, about the company and the industry that they are in. And in today's episode of Every Whiskey, I am interviewing Maya Huber, who is the CEO and founder of Skillset, a company that is currently changing the work landscape as they are allowing people who used to fall between the cracks with their CV to find a job. They are helping people use their skills to find a job instead of that one-pager CV that used to fall between the cracks or is still falling between the cracks because of sophisticated ATS HR software as a service that kind of tries to filter for HR CVs and a lot of times filters people who are totally qualified for the job. In this interview, me and Maya talk about how she got to the idea and the struggles of being a mother and entrepreneur in the same time. And we have some whiskey, we have some laughs, and I really think that you're going to enjoy this one. And if you do enjoy it, don't forget to hit that like button. And if you are new to the channel, hit subscribe. Let's begin with Every Whiskey, episode 2. Hello everyone, welcome to the podcast, Every Whiskey. My name is Avishai, and today I have the magnificent Maya Huber, one of the co-founders of Skillset, who will tell us all about her amazing startup and her journey of how she got to where she is right now, where she has already a working product and a successful proof of concept behind her and a lot of scale ahead of her. So first of all, Maya, welcome.
Thank you, Avishai. I'm so excited to be here.
I am too. And for those of you who don't know what Skillset does, Maya will tell us, what does Skillset do? What's the story behind the company?
Okay, so Skillset here to revolution the way companies reach their pool of talent and job seekers explore job opportunities in the world. So this is a new approach to hiring that replaces the common CV-based storytelling sorting process into a proven skills-based sourcing and sorting process for recruiters and for job seekers.
So where does the idea come up from? Because there have been a lot of, I would say, a lot of content that was produced just in the past 2 years about how hard it is to find good workers. And it seems like a no-brainer, something like Skillset. Like how does one come up with the idea to understand really what's the solution that's needed in the market?
So, as you know, we're two co-founders. My team, my great team, and more and I have been working in the placement and HR space for the last 15 years. And we're working with job seekers, we're working with companies. We actually met through the years a lot of desperate job seekers looking to find job with the resume that do not reflect their skills. And we were walking around offering like personal service. And I was thinking that technology must change the situation, which is the same for the last, I feel more than a decade, like 15 years, nothing really have changed in the recruitment process. And I felt that the solutions out there, you know, everybody talk about skills assessment in the last couple of years, but all of those people or solution or offering skills assessment, doing it by questionnaires. Or there were different solutions out there like simulation tests or really cool solution. They were only after the candidate was sending his CV and it's like a proven solution in the process. And we felt there must be a different approach. And then a year ago, after working for a couple of months on our solution and created really cool simulations, we've met near our CTO, and together we designed magnificent tech that allow us to take this pre-hiring assessment tool people know, this cool simulation test that simulate the core task of the job to the top of the funnel, and by then enable people to approach differently and to put their skills up front before using CV.
So one of the things that I found really, I think, horrifying about the whole processes today of CVs is that there's now like a new buzzword terminology. Your CV has to be ATS friendly. Have you heard about this terminology?
And the craziest thing, there are tech that help job seekers to create this kind of ATS certificate CV. This is crazy.
So let's take a step back. So what is your background? Does it have anything to do with the job seeking market? Have you worked in HR? What's the story there? Like, to be honest, this is going to be great for the podcast listeners. I didn't do a lot of going back into my history just because I was more focused about the last 2 years of the story and how the startup evolved. But what are your roots in the professional world?
Okay, so I hold a PhD in occupational therapy, and
so you're a doctor.
I'm a doctor, yeah.
Okay,
a certificate doctor.
So I was
you can drink.
No, wait. So I was supposed to say in the beginning, Dr. Maya Huber.
Actually, yeah.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, I stand corrected, Dr. Maya Huber.
Thank you for that. My expertise is job analysis and the future of work. At the last 15 years, I was working in different companies. I was managing, me and my colleague, actually more, my co-founder, we managed the biggest companies and projects in Israel in terms of HR placement and a specific project in terms of diverse hiring. And this was one of our main expertise. And so basically, that she just imagine that through those years, I met thousands of job seekers and thousands of employers trying to find a match.
There's a lot of people who don't know what diverse hiring is. So for those who don't know what diverse hiring is, can you give us in a nutshell kind of like, what do you mean when you say diverse hiring?
So actually, it's a good question because people refer diverse hiring mostly for women or underrepresented people, populations like minorities, but it's much more broad. So it's people with disabilities, it could be youth of threes, it could be elderly women, it could be people who live in rural areas, any person that is being discriminated or a population that is underrepresented in the workforce.
Okay, so you worked with a lot of people who basically wanted to work,
have great skills,
and in the other side, you still found companies saying that they don't have people to come to work.
And not just that, they met those people. And all I had is to tell them, you need to trust me. I'm telling you, Avishai is great. He is amazing. You have to meet him. But it's not enough. And I can understand why employers could not count on that. They need something more solid to count on. And this is how we came up with this idea.
So do you know that moment where you said, it's hard to change the system from the inside, I have to change it from the outside? Do you remember where you were at that moment? Can you tell me what was that moment, where was it, and what was going through your mind? Actually,
this is a story. The last project we did, we managed, this is one of the really significant project in terms of diverse hiring in Israel in the last couple of years, where the project ran from the Ministry of Labor in Israel. And we just started, and the first people came over to this project. This was the first time they opened those services to everybody. Like, each and every person could come over. And we met first, the people who came first were people who were rejected from other programs. So they were pretty low skilled. And then we added this employer with one of the biggest call centers in Israel. And he told us, I need working hands, bring me those people. Just find the way to bring them over. And they had this process of months of some kind of test and, psychometric test and different kind of the typing test, really unnecessary stuff. And the job at the end was to record calls, to summarize calls.
Okay, so just all they had to do was summarize the call.
Yeah, just to
take
listen
notes.
to the notes. Yeah, exactly, just to take notes. And I said, this is not going to work. So it took me a couple of months to convince them to ignore all the process and to trust me. And what we did, this is pretty stupid, but we actually had students over. They sat near those people who we gave service to, and they were, simulating calls. They say, hi, I'm trying to reach blah, blah, blah. This is my message, and they need to type it. And we did it with around 10 or 15 calls. And what was amazing about this really stupid, straightforward simulation, that 90% of the people we find suitable to the job got accepted, got hired, and were working in this place for at least a year, and some of them scaled up in the company. And this is really one of the toughest call center around in Israel. And when I saw that, I said, we gotta have tech doing that, because this was so simple. And then I thought, we need to change the system. That was a really enlightening moment for me.
Okay, so to summarize, you're in a month process, and you basically did the unimaginable and convinced somebody or a whole organization to throw away everything they knew about a process. They took a chance on you. That chance turned into a huge success due to the fact that not only people got hired, they actually managed to move up in the ranks. That is, one of the probably best, proofs of concept you can have.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
you didn't have a startup yet.
Yeah.
So basically, the POC was before the foundation.
Yeah, exactly. And not only that, imagine it was really the people that was hired were really, there were people that the company looked at them and they said, they are not suitable for us. What we can do with those people. So this was a great success and an enlightening moment. And that's what took me and more to design this amazing company.
So at what point did you say, I quit?
I quit my job.
Yeah.
Actually, I gave birth to my third child, and I said, "This is the time."
Wait. We have to stop on this. So, you're a mother of how many children?
Three.
And how old is the oldest one?
10, 7, and the youngest is 3.
The 10, 7, the youngest is 3. Okay. So you are full-time startup. No, I would say 9 to 5 safe job ecosystem.
Not at all.
And you're a mother of 3 children. And in the year 2021, after a whole year and something that of lockdowns and school being closed and everything.
Actually, COVID was one of the best things happening to us, really.
Please elaborate. I have to understand. Why has COVID been one of the best things that happened to you?
Because it changed the AR market tremendously, really. First of all, there are unfortunately more desperate people trying to find job and struggle to go back to work with different spaces in the market or verticals that disappeared, and people required to do a career change, forced into career change. That's the first thing. And the second thing, I think a lot of processes have been accelerated to this year. And one of those is the HR system. We understand there needs to be a different approach to hiring, different approach to recruiting, different approach to manage your employees. And that was an amazing opportunity for us.
Okay. So for the next segment, you're going to need to take a sip of whiskey because
Okay.
now we're going to drill down more into like the entrepreneurship life that you've been living. So while COVID has been one of the best things that happened to you in terms of the business, tell our listeners, what is the hardest aspect of being a mom entrepreneur?
I'm not sure if it's different for being for being an entrepreneur without kids. It's juggling everything up. I want to be with them. But I was working a full-time job forever. And all the projects and all the companies we manage, we always worked 200% of our time. So this is not new to me. And I think that, and I can tell us both about me and more and all of people working with us, we are so passionate about it. And we want to create this change. So this is hard. I can't tell you it's not. But I have a really supportive family and great friends. And I think that this is extremely helpful.
And I think like it's also important that you have a co-founder that you've known so long. So
absolutely, me and more, we are a teammate for more than decades. I always shared this. She is my second marriage. We have an amazing relationship with great trust, and we work great together. So this is really helpful and what help us accelerate things really fast.
So I know a lot of our listeners actually talk about, things that they would like to hear on these kinds of podcasts. And one of the things they wanted to know is like how to know that you're with the right co-founder. And when I think about like somebody who can really give a great example of I would say a natural match, something that's so symbiotic that it feels like it's anything but forced. I always think about you two, and I'm wondering, would you say that sometimes the match has also a downside, or are there any things that like sometimes you feel it's too perfect? Just kind of like from you found a perfect co-founder, and in the same time, where do you feel that sometimes you just need somebody to fight with you, to get into an argument?
So actually, me and Mo argue a lot. This is a
So
perfect match.
you're saying a decade of relationship does not help, avoid confrontation?
No. Actually, I think the best thing we have is really open communication. So we're not fighting, but we have our arguments, we have our disagreements, but we have a great communication. We could talk about everything. I mean, everything, really openly. And I think this is the main core and main value of a good relationship, of a good founder. If you can really talk with him about everything.
So let's take that and like dive in. Tell me, what kind of company culture do you envision for Skillset moving forward, for the company itself and the people inside it? Because you just said open communication, and the company is still young, but I'm pretty sure that you already have a vision of what you want to have in Skillset. So tell me a bit more of what you envision into the future.
So absolutely that. I imagine a team who's working together, like a unit in the army, with a great communication inside, and in terms of even having fun with each other. And I believe this is really meaningful, because once you have fun, you can even go through those hard times and stressful time and accelerate those into even bigger successes. So I think that open discussion, we really work on things to be transparent in our organization. We share everything, what we can share. We have an open communication with all of our workers on the day they're onboarding into our company, and then by the day they leave, and it's really important to us. We believe, I can tell you that moving from the public sector to the private, I thought that all my old relationship won't be relevant anymore. And actually this journey teach me that they're so relevant, and people you meet along the way, it's a small industry, it's a small country. You meet them again, and you need to make sure that you keep on good connections, good relationship. And this is what we do with our employees. We want people to work hard, and we accept them to work hard instead with the KPIs, but to have fun and to have a great atmosphere in the office.
So you said another interesting thing. You said about like you had this like fear that the relationships would be irrelevant, and you wouldn't be able to basically capitalize on that network you built for years. So kind of question from entrepreneur to entrepreneur, which I love. And this is another time to take a sip, because this is one of those questions you have to take
I won't be able to answer at the end.
No, you'll be able to answer excellent. Trust me.
So cheers.
So,
You finished
okay, I'm gonna fill.
If I'm going down, you're going down with me.
Definitely. Only one way to get to the bottom of things.
Absolutely.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Did I keep my promise to give a whiskey that's easy to go down?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so I kept my promise. And now, the next question is for you, Maya. And it doesn't have to be specifically just work-related, but like, what would be like the greatest fear that keeps you up? What is like the thing that you're like, a challenge that each time kind of like reoccurs in the dreams? Because I feel that every entrepreneur who wants to change something big, who wants to make a movement, that motivation doesn't come without like some kind of driving fear. And maybe I'm wrong, but
no, God, I just want to answer one. I don't have one. I have tons of fears. I have a great list there.
Give us one example, just to kind of get into the mindset of somebody who is going through this kind of journey you're going through right now?
Personally, I must say, this is a career change for me. I came from the public sector where once providing a service, you check everything to the last detail before you put anything in front of your client.
The price of the mistake.
Yeah. And here, you do whatever you can. You try to make it work. You fake it until you make it. And this is a great change for me. And I think my greatest fear is that, I really believe in what we do. But at the end, I say, will we be able to make it in the end? To stand with all our promises, to stand with the vision we see. We want to grow big. We want to create a massive change. We are not here to be another company, another solution. I want that when our kids grow up, they will say that CV is something, like a copy paper nowadays. Like they will say, this is something our parents send over fax, and
I saw once a CV in a museum.
Exactly. And this is what we're aiming for. And this is a big vision. So sometimes anxiety is there, but then I remember this POC I told you about, and how simple it was. And I look at my partners and see, we're going to do it.
So to make this dream a reality, like many startups, you raised funds. Is there anything you can disclose with us who is invested in the company?
You. We have private investors. We have Michael Eisenberg on board. We have Techstars. We are Techstars alumni. Good company invested in us. We are now fundraising our seed round, and with really great processes and hopes in that space. With great partnerships they're building.
So this is a good time if you're you're thinking about like a great time to raise. I think the startup ecosystem is one of and it's one of the golden hours. So they say timing is everything, and it looks like you hit the timing on the spot.
Absolutely, the HR tech is exploding, and we are there. And if one of people who hear us want to jump on the board, please.
You heard it, people. But very interesting to kind of to hear about your Techstars experience, because I know that some of our listeners have been also in the debate of should I go the accelerator route or I shouldn't. Can you kind of give the why yes, why not really quick for the accelerator route, for who fits the bill for that and who should probably reassess or skip the idea?
We had a great experience on accelerators. I can personally say that Techstars change we pivoted afterwards. We had a new approach of how we're targeting the market, the go-to-market, everything. Techstars specifically, and may I say specifically Ila Ovilberner, who managed this program in Israel, they are all into milestone and KPIs. They're really focused on their, I think, if I'm going back to your question, if a company is looking for accelerator, they need to choose the one that see you as a company. That it's not another company in the process, like going through the funnel with the same process every day. We felt like we are seen. They saw our needs. It was personal and high demand. And, this is a combination that make you shine. And we finished this program with a new MVP. We had an investor. We had a couple of companies working with us. It was a different space. I can also say that what I learned is that if you are into accelerator, you need to be there. You can't expect to just, come around and hear lectures. And
nobody's going to spoon feed you.
No one. And you need to work hard. And, people talk about networking and they will help you to network. You need to focus on who do you want them to introduce you, what are you going to achieve. And once you have that and a great relationship with this accelerator, it was an amazing experience for us.
So one of the more interesting things that you said was that you pivoted. And can you tell me a bit, what was the thought process while pivoting? Like I can only imagine that to choose to pivot is a huge decision. It's a question of it's a question of existence. Who am I? What am I? Can
Absolutely.
can you give a bit kind of, can you color us a bit, the process and what you encountered there?
Yeah, sure. So we started as a pre-hiring assessment. And we created great simulation. Our focus group was diversity people who struggling to get into the workforce. And this is where we started. And what made us pivot is that we had a great product. And actually, we had its MVP and we went through job seekers with disability. We actually drove to their house with a computer and let them try the simulation. It was a great experience. And we said, okay, we rock it. This is amazing. We will help those people. But then we showed their outputs to companies. And we heard over and over again, this is nice. This is really cool simulation. But what we really want is qualified candidates. You can bring me those. And after the sixth time, we said, okay, we need to stop. Because we can't just create this cool simulation. We realized this is not, it is not a game changer and it does not solve the problem unless we will change the top of the funnel, which is CV. And then we met Nir, a CTO, our amazing CTO, and together we created this editor that suddenly enable us with the opportunity to create simulation pretty fast and for every job. And those are our unique tech is that those simulations are general. They are not customized to any company. So they can stand there at the top of the funnel, be the first one to recognize your skills and then help you find job based to that. So this was a combination for your question, for feedback from the market, to listening to the feedback from the market, and this great tech that was coming, and the combination of those and actually working with your trust team in this change, what made us create this pivot.
So one of the, I would say struggles of every startup is to find a good CTO. And you managed to find one.
Absolutely.
What would you say that you learn in the process of finding a good CTO? Because you and your co-founder are not from the tech side. You're from the operations, the business. You're the perfect person to build a product. But in the end of the day, you found a CTO to join your journey, or you found each other in a sense.
Yeah.
And a lot of people struggle with that. Can you give some tips about how to create a great match with a good CTO?
So I can tell you that what worked for us, and we met a couple of people. And actually, I can share that the first conversation with Neil was, I'm not into it. But then
you were not into him.
No. He was working. He was not there in terms of hearing about it. And then we had another conversation with him 2 weeks after the first call, and he said, I can't stop thinking about it. I have to join you. And I think this is the thing. You need to find a person that's really passionate about your solution and what you do, because you can pivot again. I think that what I learned about those tech people, they need to really be curious about their mission. And I think this is the main thing. We met people who look really amazing, and we had great relationship with them. But then we offered them to try the simulation before and to give us feedback, and they didn't try it. And this is like our simulation test. So I think this is the main issue. People will be passionate, and this is the CTO, but actually it's every one of your employees.
It sounds like you're in a very, I would say, a dream moment. You have the right CTO. You have a co-founder that argues with you on all the right stuff. You figured out your product market fit. You just said that you have amazing backers behind you. Complimenting myself here as well. What is, from this moment forward, the strategy? What are the, I would say, the mountains you're trying to conquer in the next 3 to 6 months? What is Skillset set out to do?
Okay, so basically our first goal, and this I don't know, by the end of the year, I guess, the next quarter and the one next, is that we want to bring over more job seekers into our platform. We saw through the last months that once the job seekers are there and we have great candidates, qualified candidates, companies just buying them. So it's pretty straightforward. So this is our main goal right now. We are competing with monsters. with Monster, the job board.
Pun intended.
Yeah, unintended. But also, huge platform like Indeed, like Monster, like LinkedIn, who's looking to reach talent. And we offer different approach. And what we're going to do in this upcoming months is to start with those people we give great value for them, those junior just trying to look a job, people in career change, underrepresented populations we think we see right now, they enjoy our platform really easily. So we will bring them over. We have great companies in our pipeline to make the match. And in a year and a half from now, we will be with at least 50,000 job seekers on our platform, dozens of companies working with us. And then we will launch a full platform with great buzz. And we will need big pockets for that, because this is a huge story. And that will be the great time to tell it.
So the job seekers, let's assume it's a no-brainer. They all join the platform because if you have the option to, send CVs, like on autopilot and not get responses, or to do a simulation and actually get feedback on your abilities. Let's say it's a no-brainer, and everybody chooses the skill set route in a sense. And then there's the businesses who want these kind of people who go through the skill set route. So can you kind of describe to me your, I would say, perfect or ideal customer base? How do they look like? What kind of businesses are they in? What kind of positions are they looking to fill? Can you just break down to us, I'm sure the listeners would love to know who's the ideal customer base for Skillset.
Sure. So we are targeting the mass hiring market. To keep it simple, this is the blue collar market and the entry-level job in high-tech. Every company that hires at least 100 employees quarterly.
Okay, so 100 employees quarterly would be like, and over would be the kind of ideal client in terms of volume.
Yeah, so basically this is the Fortune 500 companies. Companies like Comcast that are on our funnel. We have great companies like Wix, like Ascended, working with us. Those kind of company, first of all, they onboard in the basic T, which is 300 qualified leads yearly. And then they move forward with that. We had great success with them. Those companies struggle to get new qualified employees all the time. So we help them meet those hiring KPIs. We also help those, HR managers. They deal with the recruiters. And look, imagine those blue-collar companies. The recruiters doing, hundreds of calls a day. They're exhausted. So we also make their life easier and much more effective work. This is a value we bring to them. And on the other side, our costs per hire is way more cheaper, and our retention rate are 20% better.
You said the title recruiters, and I had a kind of a sound wish you would say that, because what not many people know in my circles, and probably yours, is that we actually got introduced by master recruiter Efrat Dagan, who was the first recruiter in Google Israel. She was the lead recruiter. And she was the head recruiter of Lyft, Uber's biggest competitor on mobility.
And Next Insurance,
one of the most hyper-growth insurance tech companies. And recently, Efrat decided to go solo because she just understands how much value she can bring. And another way we are kind of intertwined, connected, besides that introduction from Efrat Dagan, is by Nirit Cohen, who is probably one of the biggest names in HR internationally, as being the head of EMEA of Intel. Besides North America, Nirit Cohen was the number one person in Intel, and you also know her. And this is like a small surprise for you as a guest on the podcast. And you didn't know this before coming in. I actually also bought you her book.
Oh, really?
Yes, I did. So after the podcast, I'm going to hand it to you.
Amazing.
And so we were talking, so back to the kind of to refocus, we talked about recruiters, and we both know a lead recruiter, and we both know somebody who's very big in the HR scene. And it seems that they're on board with understanding the issue in front of us of how kind of technology failed us with trying to adapt in a way to make the whole format of the CV scalable.
Yeah.
And in the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much tech was created. There are talent recruiters that are currently suffering under the burden of having no time and not managing to fill positions.
Exactly.
And I'll give one last shout out to Liron Benjamin, who is my HR manager here at Brainy, my day job in the beginning. And I know how she came from the recruiting side and she worked in Manpower before. And I know from her experience that it didn't matter which organization she moved to, and it doesn't matter what the requirements were. There was never a scalable way to hire people. And it seemed like eventually we were all testing people, but only after putting in front that CV we keep talking about. And another thing that we haven't talked about this in this episode, which I think also needs to be put out there. And I'm not a doctor, but I'm an organizational consultant, master's degree. And I think it's agreed across the whole industry that interviews as well is a very poor way of assessing people, and that it does not reflect anything about people's skill set.
Yeah.
So it seems like talent recruiters have basically the worst nightmare ever. They have technology that fails them. Interviews are not a good enough way. And then you have now basically just to overcome, I guess, I would say adaptation fear of like using this new process. What do you say to talent recruiters who tell you, but wait, we've never tried this way before?
Actually,
I know it was a long monologue before, but it's a build-up because it seems that people like Efrat who introduced us understand this, but the rest of the talent recruiters who are probably 2 or 3 generations after her are probably, kind of standing still from, I would say, some point of fear or inexperience or lack of knowledge or lack of education of what do you tell to the talent recruiter who is anywhere between the ages of 24, 32, first, second, or third maybe position in the industry? How do you convince them to join the Skillset revolution?
You know what I do? I ask them about the last time they were looking for a job.
Okay.
And then, this is like the most common experience, right? People, it start with, I was looking at that. People didn't see me. First, those youngest, they still remember them being juniors and struggling to find the way out of work. And we met, the greatest partners we have are people, in one of the company we're working with, one of our clients, the head of customer care was not a pilot, Dayal.
Oh, he was a steward. Airline steward.
Yeah, and he was tired of doing that and tried to find his way into the high-tech industry. And I didn't know that. And he told me he was so excited about this solution. And I think this is the issue. People really understand the pain of being lost on shuffle with those tons of CV. People understand that.
Falling between the chairs.
Yeah, exactly. And once they see the solution, the only thing we're struggling with is sometimes we don't have the specific simulation they want because, we just started and we are filling the rows with that. This is the only thing we're struggling with. And last thing I want to share is that, we also have a new pricing approach. And I asked one of our partners in Ascendit, how did you manage to do that? Because they also pay hourly workers. This is stuff they work with placing companies, with outsourcing. And he told me, and I think this is the issue. He told me, Maya, this recruiting market requires a new approach justify a new pricing model. And I think this is the thing. People are ready for that. This is a great timing. Both job seekers and recruiters.
So you touched here on an interesting point when you said, I asked people the last time you were looking for a job. And I have a personal trauma I want to share with you, because it's one of the reasons where when you explained to me Skillset, for lack of better terminology, my response was shut up and take my money. And for those of you who don't know, and those of you who don't know my history, I actually was featured in the Marker magazine, which is basically kind of like the Forbes magazine of Israel. And I was featured in like the 8 o'clock evening news, which is the main news event, for my experience of not being able to find a job using a CV and basically throwing the CV to the garbage and doing videos and doing Google ads and doing basically every guerrilla marketing tactic because I was so frustrated from the CV process. And if Skillset probably existed in my time, I'd probably have a way easier time getting an internship at a bigger company. So I've dealt with this from personal experience, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
This is why we get up in the morning.
Exactly. So this is now like kind of where we have to finish that glass I poured you, and you're going to get a round of questions that are going to be...
no, there's no way. I will fall.
As much as possible.
Okay.
As much as possible.
Another
3, 2, 1. Okay. If there's going to be a book about your life, what's going to be the title of that book?
Oh, God. Enthusiasm.
Okay. If you had a magic stick where you could change one thing in the world right now, what would you change?
Oh, stop COVID, please. Please. So over it.
One persona who has been your greatest inspiration since you started this journey.
Oh, wow. There were a couple. I look at Inat Goez from Papaya Global really carefully and follow her steps.
Have you met her? Do you know each other?
Yeah, I've met her. It was a great conversation.
Is there any like one magic tip that you take from the conversations with her?
I really love their creative approach of business, of how they go to market strategy. It was really creative and a bit aggressive. I'm not sure if that's the right approach, but I really liked it. The creative part of the process and the way that her story about how raising money while being pregnant, and she's really inspiring.
I would love to have her on the podcast, but too bad I'm not on her cap table. She sounds interesting. Yeah. You sound like somebody who's learned a thing or two about entrepreneurship since the beginning of her journey. What would you say are the top 3 skills that young entrepreneurs need to develop?
They have to be passionate about what they do. They need to be really open to feedback and strong. Like strong personas.
What do you do for your own personal sanity outside office hours?
Okay, so I work out 4 times a week.
4 times a week?
4 times. Actually, it got even worse on this last year. This is my therapy, basically. I go out a bit when I can. And Friday mornings are my day off. I don't work Friday mornings. And I walk around the city, Tel Aviv, which I love, and do a bit of shopping.
Okay.
Sometimes not just a bit, but you know.
And I think the last question that I would like to sign off is if you can give one mistake you did as an entrepreneur that you would recommend others to take a pause and to dwell on it and think how they don't stop in that same place. Because I think one of the most greatest things about entrepreneurs is to know where they made a mistake and how to grow from it. And it seems that you're in a great place and you've grown. Can you give inspiring entrepreneurs like a piece of advice where you can save them a lot of maybe suffering? And you know what? In the same time, just because you have so much, I would say, knowledge and insight in the world of actually taking the I would say, traditional career route. So let's divide it into two. One recommendation of, mistakes not to make for people who want to go that regular career route, and one for aspiring entrepreneurs, one for each.
The regular career route? I think that I was never bored. It was really meaningful to me to not get bored, even if I was work for the public sector. It was really important to be interesting, and that's the reason actually I moved out of that sector. And for entrepreneurs, the phrase hire slow, fire fast?
I've heard of it.
Okay, so that's a good advice. There were a couple of times I was struggling with an employees, just trying to make it work and over again, and we lost time and money. And I think you need to get to do brave decisions and to not compromise on your teammates.
I think that both are amazing advice. So you're saying career route, be engaged, be interested, never be bored. Life is too short to have a boring 9 to 5. And in terms of entrepreneur route, hire slow, choose carefully who joins your team, and make sure if somebody's not a fit, to make sure to do both parties, in a sense, a favor, and to part ways.
Absolutely.
Maya, it was a delight to have you. And, even though we've spent some time together, I felt I got to know you better on a different level. This is the time to tell people where to find Skillset. So Skillset is Skillset. It's Skillset.
This is skillsettech.com.
So skillset.tech.com.
Please follow us on LinkedIn or friends on Facebook. And
so I actually am an admin on our LinkedIn page, and we have a lot of followers.
Yeah, we just raised. We have more than 1,000.
Yeah, so the LinkedIn page is actually a really interesting page. I really recommend following it. And here on the podcast, after almost a full glass of whiskey, we're going to peer pressure Maya on the podcast to open a Twitter account.
Okay.
And she's going to start tweeting about how to find a job without a CV.
Coming soon. Avishai, thank you so much. It was really fun and great. And thank you for bringing our vision to hundreds of people who are going to hear it.
It was my pleasure. And I think that job seekers and companies alike are going to be in for a treat, just even trying out Skillset. And thank you to our listeners for listening until here. This was the podcast Every Whiskey, episode 2 with Maya Huber from Skillset. And I hope to see you all next time on the next episode of Every Whiskey.